Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of The Complete Advisor. Doing again something a little bit different. I want to set up a clip. So this is some video from a longer conversation, a longer episode I shot with Matt Green. And one of the things that we did, we talked about something that Matt does maybe differently than anybody else. And that is, how do you hold accountable centers of influence? So we all know that we give tons of referrals as advisors to other professionals, whether it's a CPA, whether it's attorneys. And unfortunately, a lot of times that referral exchange is kind of one-sided. We tend to give out a lot of them and we don't tend to get them back. Well, Matt's figured out a few different tricks and ways that he uses to get referrals to come back to him from attorneys and CPAs, and how he actually kind of balances the scales and holds them accountable. So we're just going to drop right into this conversation. I hope you enjoy. But the topic we discussed is something that I've always found fascinating, and that is that as a former advisor myself, one of the things people would always say is, like, you need to network, you need to find these centers of influence, like CPAs, attorneys, and what you need to do is you build this referral relationship. And I never figured it out, and I never heard anybody that really figured that out except you, because my experience was you send a basket of cookies to the CPA, crickets. You send your clients over to the CPA. Crickets back the other way. Like I'm feeding this machine. It's great for you. I don't even get free taxes from these guys. Like, it's, and you and I had this conversation, and you're really one of the first person that I can honestly think of in 20 some years of being in the business. Actually, it's probably longer now. I'm kind of fudging the numbers, but can you share how you keep those relationships equitable, and how the referral street can be not a one-way. So attorneys and CPAs.
Yeah. So what has to happen is there has to be trust. And I will tell you right now, out of the gate, they're not going to trust you because they don't probably know you. Fair enough, right? So you have to show them that you will protect the integrity of their firm before your own. Like you are looking out for them in every aspect. Okay, so I think of and then you have to, and then that will lead to this accountability, right? Like let's show the CPA or show the attorney, hey, this is what we're doing, and it's okay to talk about tough conversations from earlier episode. You got to have those tough conversations with these guys, and they're professionals. They understand. I think for whatever reason, as an advisor, we are always maybe fearful of that CPA or attorney, like they had something over us. Well, the reality is they don't. And, they're trying to run an equitable practice, and they want to be efficient and smart, and so do you. So we have a common goal there, and they're helping people, we're helping people.
I always feel I'm going to way oversimplify, but I feel like for a lot of CPAs, we do feel that way. Like, we do, as advisors, hold them up on this pedestal, and I think, everyone forgive me, but the job for most CPAs, their job is historical. Like, they're dealing with what has happened and making sure that things are done correctly. And we as advisors are looking, I think, into the future. And so, but because they know that you should have put that on line 22A, we doubt ourselves. And on one sense, we kind of should, because that's their jam. Yeah. They know the past. We're looking for the future.
Yeah, it's easy to tell somebody what they should have done, right?
Yeah.
So looking back, right? Oh, you should have done this or that.
Yep.
So I relate it to, there's kiwis, right? The bird that doesn't fly. It's running in the tall grass all the time, and it's only dealing with last year and this year and looking forward to next year. There's a lot of CPAs, and no offense, I don't want to offend anybody. That's just the world they know. They live in this 1 to 3 year bubble, right? So as an advisor, you got to be, we're talking, the journey of life, right? 10, 15, 20, 30 years plus down the road. And then how do we transition that to your loved ones, right? So
exactly.
I think the task is much greater for us to be able to navigate that for a client. But going back to developing these relationships where the referrals come, you have to be able to, number one, again, as I said, protect the integrity of the firm. So an example of that, I was with this I work with this law firm, and when they saw, and we would do events together, so they would come and speak at an event, and we would meet with the potential client, and in that process, we would determine that this client had a relationship with a firm that the estate planning firm knew. Well, I was willing to walk away from that. Even though it was my time, energy, money to maybe put an event together, I was willing to say, okay, I'll walk away from this because there's already a relationship there. So when the attorneys...
You're not going to force the issue.
Yeah, and so when the attorneys saw that I would walk away from a deal because there was already an existing relationship with that firm and the advisor, they're like, wow, this guy... It's just not about him, and he's just not trying to, pull a fast one on us or this client. He's really walking away from that deal. So it took time, but then what I think too advisors need to do is they need to keep track, right? Data, right? We need to know, well, hey, I've referred this many people to you. Out of the, let's use numbers, out of the 100 people I've referred to you, guess what? 75 of them purchased a trust, right? Or did tax work with you, okay? And the average cost of that trust or that tax bill was X. So you're showing them the revenue. You're showing them, hey, this is what, so those hard conversations after every event, I would kept the numbers for that event and then the cumulative, the running numbers, and after 5 years of doing that, I remember the main principal in the firm told me, he says, Matt, we get it. And I was like, okay, well, just in case you didn't, just in case, and I'll come back. Instead of doing this every month, I'll just give you the numbers once a year. He's like, hey, we love it. And we love what you do for us. We love that. We love what you do. So I think you need to find a firm, whether it's a CPA firm or an estate planning attorney, you need to find a firm that aligns with you as far as your investment philosophy. When they know what you're recommending and what you're doing for the clients and they see the value, that's where that referrals. That's where the referrals will come. A tremendous amount of our business is coming from referrals now. That was always the golden egg. Like, how could you get And now I don't even think about it. Referrals just come. But it's taken time to develop that, and it's holding the firm's account, holding the CPA or holding the attorney accountable. And
I think what you're saying. So then I'm going to tell you what I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you my theory, and then you can totally you can correct me. But I really hear what you're saying as far as we, as an advisor, need to know what we're bringing to the table and what we've brought to the table and the value of that, because otherwise it's a little like arguing with your significant other when you say like, well, but I do take the trash out. Well, when? I don't know. But you have to know your facts, because then you know your worth, and that's a kind of a confidence thing.
When you can stand there and show the value that you bring to this client and to their family, and you can present that to the attorney you're talking with or the CPA, you want them to be like, wow, if I want to use those guys, and guess what? Ultimately, I think you'll see those relationships. Like, I work with four different attorneys. All those attorneys use me. We do the 401k for the firm. I mean, because they see the value in what we do and how we can, save a legacy or protect a legacy and create a legacy too. So they see the value. When they see the value, it's going to make you more referable
versus sending a box of cookies over at the beginning. So this would be my skewed logic. So this is where it's where I need you to correct me here. So I guess my line of thinking would be, if I'm an advisor and I'm like, hey, I should be building a strategic relationship. Where am I going to start? This is what I would probably do. I would probably look through my book of clients, see where they're all doing their taxes, and try and approach those people. But from what I'm hearing you say, I feel like that's flawed, and that's going to take me down the wrong path because I'm just talking existing clients.
Yeah, I think you need to find a firm that aligns with very close to your culture. Like the firm, when I think of the firm, the estate planning firm that I use primarily, man, these people love on their clients. Well, guess what? We love on our clients too, right? They are truly more concerned about the relationship piece because again, they're referral. They get their business right from referrals. So so finding a practice that is culture, like aligns with your culture, right? Like in what you believe about people and your process. And then to find one that you'll find a lot of firms, a lot of attorneys are kind of do-it-yourself investors. So find out how that attorney is investing their own money. Like what's their philosophy? So when you can align with when the philosophies are the same and the culture's the same, and like our estate planning firm we use, they do client events every year. Well, guess what? We do client events, right? So you have these synergies working together. To me, that's what you need to look for.
How did you find yours? Happy accident or?
Yeah. So actually, how I found mine was I needed CE, and this firm was doing CE to advisors and CPAs, the estate planning firm. And so they'd have a room full of advisors doing their CE. Well, guess what we do? It was a way that they could get in front of advisors because advisors were giving them business. So that's why I met them. And then I had a pretty unique farm planning case with a big farm family. And these guys in their class had talked about how they were the experts in farm planning. So I interviewed them and talked to them. And then ultimately they got the business of my client and they did a phenomenal job. So fast forward, 5 years after that, when I went to Omaha and I went to this estate planning group and I said, hey, I have an idea. And by the way, the idea I had was an idea that I'd gotten from my mentor down in Florida. He said, Matt, you should do estate planning seminars, right? So I remember going back to Omaha and I went to this firm and because I had the experience I had with them was a good experience. So I started with them and I just said, hey, I have an idea. And I talked to the junior partner about it first and he said, yeah, that sounds like it might work. And then that got me an interview with the main guy and the main principal. And he looked at me and he said, well, I don't know if it's going to work, Matt, but we'll give it a try. And it was a success. Like we were just so fortunate and blessed. It just took off. And so that's how I chose the guys that I use is I actually met them through some CE stuff.
Nice.
But I would say moving forward, and I've helped other firms, other advisors, Mississippi, California, and other places, you need to find a marketing-minded attorney. When we were talking about the attorney world, you need to find that marketing-minded attorney. And there's organizations out there that they help attorneys with their marketing. And there's one called Wealth Counsel. And find the Wealth Counsel attorney in your area, and that would be a place to start. Because they're already marketing minded. Because most attorneys aren't. They're kind of the X's and O's and check the box. So if you can find a marketing minded attorney that's willing to, listen to you and see what you bring to the table, that's where you need to start.
Hey, I have to correct you on something now. So this is great because I get to correct you on something. You made it sound so casual that you did meet them kind of by happenstance. But you forgot one thing that you did, and you said you did it, but then you said, well, I just got fortunate. You interviewed them. And you said that in the other episode where we were talking about acquiring a practice.
Yeah.
You interviewed. You always do your homework.
You do. You have to, and I knew just from working with them, and it was a complicated process. So I got to see their back office work. I got to see their paralegals work. I got to see. So it was an interview, right? And then asking them, hey, what is the process? How do you charge? Are you flat fees? Are you by the hour? Well, why do you do that? And how do you align with them? Like, what is your process and your clients? Is it going to be the same feeling when they leave your office and go, and you're recommending them to go there, right? So yeah, you 100%. You're right. You got to interview them.
You do.
Yep.
You do your homework, and just like everything you do,
you have to.
Yep. All right. Well, Matt, it has been a pleasure. We are definitely going to have. While we were talking over these 4 podcast episodes that we recorded, I have like a whole handful of other topics for us the next time you're in this neck of the wood, and we'll record. But thank you so much for being on.
Thanks for having me, Dennis. As always, it's Great timing.
This podcast is for financial professional use only and not for use with the general public. The information provided is the exclusive property of Creative One and is protected by copyright and other intellectual property laws of the United States. This material has been prepared for informational and educational purposes only. It is not intended to provide, and should not be relied upon for, accounting, legal, tax or investment advice. Creative One is not responsible for the results of programs discussed on this podcast or any liability stemming from the use of it. Although we may promote or recommend the services offered by this company, agents are ultimately responsible for the use of any materials or services and agree to comply with the compliance requirements of their broker-dealer and registered investment advisor, if applicable, and the insurance carriers they represent. Copyright 2022, Creative One Marketing Corporation.